Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. In this update, we've got a building ridge across a good part of the lower 48. That's bringing a lot of warmer air and sinking air, but we do have some colder air up there into Alaska. In fact, dangerously cold, down to 47 below zero up there in Fairbanks. But you can see the initial stages of some of that colder air finally getting released, and that is what's going to tap into this more active subtropical jet stream for the week ahead and bringing a lot of heavy rainfall and bringing the storm track through the Four Corners regions down here through the southern plains and into the southeast by the time we get into this weekend. So I appreciate all my subscribers out there. I'm here on a daily basis putting out a lot of content. So if you are new here, hit the subscribe button and follow along 2024 so I can keep you well ahead of the storm. So here's the setup this week. So we're going to be watching these impulses of energy that's going to be building up here across the Aleutian Islands, down here, out here into the Pacific Ocean. Those are the pieces of energy that's going to be tapping into some of that colder air that's finally going to be released and going to be moving across the West Coast and kind of taking this storm track right here into the week ahead. So you've got a lot of instability and some heavier snows that will be traversing across that storm track. So that's going to be the predominant storm track, while much of the ridging is going to be across a good part of the north and northeast parts of the US. So if we take a look at the overall precipitation, this water vapor transport index, it's got a lot of energy. I mean, the Pacific Ocean is 6,000 miles, and that train really doesn't have a caboose on it. It's got a lot of just very heavy rain, and essentially for this time of year, you can see it's almost off the chart as far as the water vapor content that's available. That just tells me it's going to have a lot of heavy rain, likely some flooding rains, but it's also going to bring some heavier snows across this region, and eventually this will swing through a good part of the southern plains as we head into Friday and Saturday, and eventually head into the southeast for this weekend. So we're going to delve into the forecast, but first, a word from my sponsor.
It's a new year, and you know what that means. It's time for resolutions. This year, my goal is to get healthier, and I've started with a 3-mile walk every morning and cutting back on sugars. And you know what helps me kickstart my day? Magic Spoon, today's video sponsor. Remember the joy of having cereal as a kid? Well, Magic Spoon brings back that childhood magic with a grown-up twist. Magic Spoon has the great taste you love, with more protein and less sugar. I still remember when I was 8 years old and I fell in love with the weather. Cereal was one of the best parts of my day. Magic Spoon brings back that same joy. The variety pack comes in 4 delicious flavors, including my favorite, peanut butter. And if you're like me, with a specific lifestyle, whether keto, celiac, diabetic, or just watching your sugar intake, Magic Spoon fits the bill. And here's the best part. It's backed by a 100% happiness guarantee. If you don't like it, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Start your new year off right. Click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen. Use the code PAL for $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/PAL to save $5 off your order today. Here's to a healthier, happier you in the new year with Magic Spoon, the cereal that brings back the joy of your inner child.
So let's talk about this forecast. We've got that system that's going to be coming in onshore by the time we head into Wednesday and your first day of February on Thursday. That's going to bring some of that heavier rain into the coastlines of Washington and Oregon and down here into California. Those areas into the Bay Area, across San Jose through San Francisco is going to get clocked with very heavy rainfall. But eventually that will start swinging into those central California and eventually down here into Southern California. And that is just going to be the initial stages of a very active storm track that's going to be setting up in the weeks ahead. So if we look at the overall GFS ensembles, we can see this initial stages of some of that colder air and the low pressure. So this corridor is likely going to be seeing some heavier snowfall as this is going to be moving in through Idaho into a good part of Nevada here, through Utah, as well as into Wyoming, down here towards Colorado, and eventually the mountain regions of Arizona into New Mexico, as that low pressure will be rapidly deepening. By the time we head into Friday afternoon, we should start to see the snow start to fly up there into the Denver region as we get into that Friday afternoon time frame. And you can see what it looks like on the surface map as far as some of the ensemble members are printing out, shows that heavier rain across the west coast that's going to be impacting those regions. But where it's going to get cold enough, especially in the higher elevations up here into the Intermountain West, through Utah here, up here into portions of Arizona, down into New Mexico, but especially into Colorado. And there's that low pressure down to a 995 millibar. And this is going to be deepening as we go into that Saturday time frame. But the leading edge of this is going to bring some of that initial rain bands through the Oklahoma City region, through the Dallas-Fort Worth region. I don't think that really starts until sometime on Friday night. But by the time we go into the overnight into Saturday morning, yes, there's that heavier rain that should start to line up into north, central, and east Texas there. Back behind it, it will be cold enough. It's all snow, and some of that's going to be heavy snows as this low pressure will be continuing to deepen. But notice this other low pressure down here towards Brownsville. That is a system that's actually going to be traversing down here into the Gulf of Mexico, and that's going to keep the energy alive for the southern plains as well as into the southeast. And if this is going to hang out long enough, it could get interesting as it taps into some of the colder air that's going to be still around. By the time we get into the Carolinas region, maybe on Monday, we could be talking some potential snow up there in some of those regions. So let's delve into this, and here's the setup. So here's the big picture by the time we get into Saturday. So you got that ridging of high pressure that's really going to be locked over a good part of the north and the Ohio Valley and up here into the northeast. You've got a lot of sinking air, not much rainfall or any precipitation underneath that. In fact, you've got plenty of warm air. But where all the instability is on the southern corridor here. It's complements of this more active subtropical jet, and this is typically what you would see in an El Nino year, and this is El Nino winter all day long, and it's coming on full throttle, especially for that subtropical jet stream. So it's going to be pulling some of that colder air out here into portions of Southern California, through the Four Corners regions, and start to set up shop into Saturday with heavy rainfall over a good part of Oklahoma and Texas. That will move into Arkansas, into Louisiana, with a good soaker across that region in that time frame. But it is going to bring a little bit of colder air. Obviously, this isn't Arctic air in nature, but it will be dragging down some of those colder anomalies after you come off that Arctic blast. And then now we're getting the rebound effect. And then this is the backside, the initial stages of some cooling weather with a cold front heading into that Sunday time frame. So those anomalies do drop down to 10 below average temperatures, and where that low pressure center can actually kind of stall out and just kind of sit there with a lot of heavy rainfall, it could be pretty chilly down here into southern Alabama and to Georgia, as well as into the Carolinas, as we'll be tracking this low pressure center, because underneath that low, it's also going to have a cold core, and that's also going to drag down some of those temperatures even further. So here's the snow aspect of this storm. So we've got a very heavy precipitation setup. You got a lot of water content value. So that tells me this system that's coming is pretty loaded. And where it's going to be cold enough to snow, we're talking high chances of heavy snows across a good part of Nevada, through the Utah region, into the mountain regions of, Flagstaff, up in there, Arizona. And then the initial swath is going to be moving through Montana, up here into Wyoming, and down here into Colorado. Here is through Denver region and further south into New Mexico. This should be all snow across this region, and some of this could be some very significant heavy snow really piling up here as we get in start that February time frame, but it's also going to bring some heavier rain. So we've got several systems that will be inundating the West Coast. We've got moderate and even high chances of heavy rainfall forecasted from the Climate Prediction Center, as these low pressure centers will be bringing in that very high water content value out there in the Pacific, tapping into that more subtropical jet stream. Yes, that leaves a swath of heavy rainfall, especially across the West Coast, into Southern California, into the Vegas region, into Arizona, across New Mexico. So yeah, lower elevations, it's going to be all heavy rain. Some of the higher elevations, it's all heavy snows. And then where that other low pressure center kind of sits and stalls down there in the Gulf of Mexico, that could bring additional heavy rains through Texas, through Oklahoma, but really setting up across this area that just got inundated with heavy rainfall as of late, that you have another system. So that drought down here in this region is going to be wiped away. It's already got a major dent. If not, it's going to be completely obliterated by the time we get into, by the time we finish February. There's likely not going to be a drought across this region, because there's going to be a lot of heavy rain, a lot of precipitation, and a lot of activity going through this southern corridor as we get deeper into February. But first and foremost, this is the first system, right? So this is the first system, that green, those low pressure centers. This is likely where the low is going to be on Sunday. That's going to drag down that colder air, and it should be chillier across Oklahoma, a good part of north and central Texas, into East Texas, through Arkansas, through Louisiana, down here towards Mississippi. But look where the low is going to dive. It actually keeps diving southeastward, traversing across that more subtropical jet, traversing across, down here into the southeast, into Florida, up here through the Carolinas. That is not until that Monday time frame. This is next Monday. But look what's going to be lurking, that's going to be trailing behind that one. Yet we're going to have another system. And each system, as you'll notice as we go through these weeks of February, this one that will be coming for the next week is going to be even lower than what you're going to be coming this week. So every week, I think this is going to be kind of a step down process again, kind of like what we saw in January, as it gets colder and colder and the jet stream gets lower and lower, and eventually that ridge will be slowly pushing further north as we get deeper into the month of February. But so we got some chilly air. Again, it's not Arctic air. This is the wind chills as we head into next Monday morning. We've got widespread 20s drifting all the way down into Texas, through Oklahoma, all the way down into the coast. As it feels, you're going to feel that colder air all the way down into Louisiana, into Mississippi, into the southeast, into the Florida panhandle, through the Carolinas. So again, it's not Arctic, especially what we just came through, but it's the initial stages of some of that colder air and the rebound effect after you've had a very warm week. And underneath that, we are going to be, experiencing, hey, we still are in winter, and we still got plenty of winter left. And we just getting a little bit of a January thaw, as often as they call it. But we'll be coming out of that. But coming out of that, it will be a slow process. But we've got some snow highlighted potentially over the Carolinas. Now, the GFS ensembles have kind of been hinting that really for the past couple of days, with that low pressure, if there's enough colder air by the time we head into Monday timeframe, it's a possibility. It's not very high. It's 10, 20, if not almost 30, somewhere up to 40%. So, but hey, it's something to watch. It's something to look for. And if you were going to get, wintry precipitation across the Carolinas, this is typically the time of year, climatology favored, that you would likely get some snow if it's going to happen. So it's a step down process. This is only the first week of February going into this week and then it will be getting colder every single week as we get deeper into February. But if this one is going to bring that heavy rain, so this is just the rainfall over the next 7 days. So we'll have a lot of precipitation, especially along the coastal regions into Washington and Oregon, through California. Look at all that heavy rain that's coming. Look at the graph here, 4, 5, upwards to 8 inches of heavy rain, no question about it. That traverses across central and southern California, moves through the Four Corners regions, and then we've got the dry slot over top, right? This is where predominantly where the ridge will be. We've got a lot of sinking air, a lot of dry air underneath that. So then all the activity gets pushed on the southern flank of that, where the predominant storm track will be. So we're likely going to get a heavy swath of precipitation through Oklahoma, through Texas, through Louisiana, into Mississippi, through Alabama, through Georgia, through Florida, and trying to swing up here into the Carolinas, as we go into that Monday time frame. Here's the estimated snowfall some of these ensemble members are kind of printing out in the week ahead. We've got obviously heavy snows across the Sierras, through the Cascades, and in the Intermountain West. This should bring some heavier snows, especially for those mountain regions up here into Arizona, into Nevada, through the Utah region, through Colorado. Yes, even Denver will be getting into the action on Friday, even the Saturday time frame. This is going to be extended into New Mexico, and maybe a dusting or two swinging across the Texas Panhandle through western portions of Kansas. But there's that snow that could potentially fall into the Carolinas. Again, it's not significant. It's just a possibility. We could be talking about some snow by then. But underneath that ridge, that's where predominantly you've got all that sinking air that will likely take place. But if we go into next week, right, this is going to be another storm system that will be tracking across the west. Look how far south it is. It's even a little bit lower. This is your Jetstream that goes across the Southwest again, and through Texas, and down here towards the Gulf, into the Gulf of Mexico, and through Florida. So we'll be watching these series of more active subtropical storm track as we're getting into the heart of that El Nino now. It is actually weakening, but we're still in the influx of the El Nino, and we still will be over the course of another couple of months, at least through April timeframe. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update where I protect you before and after the storm.